Are we live? Because it said it went. Hold on. I think we're
think so.
live. Yeah, it said we got interrupted, but it looks like we're live. Good morning, everyone. It is what, Tuesday? So we got Jeremy Taggart here, returning guest on my live streams. Rockstar agent, broker, investor in Pittsburgh. And first time on my live stream, but he's been on my channel before. So we got Greg Baling here. Welcome, guys.
Hey,
What's up,
Mark.
Mark?
Yeah, so Greg, why don't you maybe, since your first time on the live stream, maybe quickly introduce yourself, what you do, and kind of what you're working on right now.
Yeah. So Greg Baling, company's HouseWiz. Currently, I'm just kind of a self-employed entrepreneur, working towards building it as a business and as a brand. So like a lot of contract, like a lot of like handyman type stuff. I would say small to medium sized jobs. The larger jobs, like I tend to try to keep that for myself, so like flipping wise. Is like I don't like to take on big jobs because then you're kind of just stuck doing that for like months. So like small to medium jobs, like so like bathroom remodel, kitchen, maybe some flooring, paint, any of the things. I like to say that I'm not a Yinzer contractor, so like I show up, I answer my phone. I'm a business person at the end of the day, like. I'm not doing this for to buy a loaf of bread. I'm doing this for financial freedom and to, build a business. So like, you see a lot of these guys show up with like tools and like a Home Depot bucket and, just I might not look the part, but like I have a chemistry degree, like I am educated. So like I like to bring some of like the blue collar work with the white collar attitude of like showing up, treating it like as a business, treating clients respectfully and making sure that they get everything that they want. I take credit card checks, all that. And you don't get that with a lot of the contractors that work around here. They want paid cash, they're doing everything, dirt cheap just because they have nothing else. So I like to say I try to add that business background to the contracting background.
So I did put Greg's Instagram page, Jeremy's Instagram page in the chat. So go subscribe if you want to connect with them, reach out to them that way. There is a few people in the community that have already used Greg. So I know Stephen Gwynn used him. I know Lars is getting maybe a quote from you right now. Some of the other investors in Hawaii I know have worked with you, Melanie. So yeah, so everyone reach out to them if you got some work to do. But yeah, today's one is going to be a little bit more focused on the Pittsburgh market initially. So there was a Realtor.com article late last year that had Pittsburgh ranked as the number 4 market for investors out of the top 20, up to the top 75 metros in the U.S. So it's kind of, and we're noticing a lot of people pivoting towards Pittsburgh. So maybe Jeremy can kind of touch on first his thoughts on, is maybe Pittsburgh hit its peak? Is number 4 as high as it's going to get, and is it getting kind of saturated for investors right now?
Not yet. I think it's definitely gotten a lot more competitive than when I first started in 2018, but I still see a lot of runway, specifically because we have so many neighborhoods that are kind of untapped still that have great rent to price ratios. Maybe they're a little bit gritty, rough around the edges, but I don't think it's anywhere near getting tapped out yet compared to a lot of other more expensive markets for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Jeremy. I think you're starting to see stuff not make sense. Like to people in this area. If you're from the area, you may maybe see a property that's in a desirable location, and people from Cali or people from Canada or people from anywhere that have money that this is like a cheap market. You're seeing those properties go above what makes really sense to as an investor. But I still think there's so much in and around Pittsburgh that you can really go in and do stuff too.
Hold on, my moderators are not doing their job in the chat section. But good morning to Joe V. Flavio's here from Washington. We got Jack here. I think Jeremy and Jack had coffee recently. Greg, did you meet Jack in person yet?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's the one concern, maybe, because we do have people that are investing in Gary, Indiana, which is a smaller market. But we had Millennial Mike, who kind of helped people get started in that market, and they're noticing that because it's very saturated, because it's getting a lot of investors now, so they're having a hard time finding contractors and getting people to do work for them. Even communication is kind of difficult. So, what do you guys think? I mean, how would you guys, as far as investors looking at Pittsburgh, like what should they still be looking at? Is it like the rent to price ratio or the entry point, or what is the strengths of Pittsburgh today, do you think?
Yeah, I think we're getting a lot of gentrification spillover neighborhoods now that some of these, specifically in the east end of the city, where all the most expensive neighborhoods are, those are tapped out basically at this point. They're essentially overrun by owner occupants, both on the single family and multifamily side. So that ship set sail. Now it's kind of, what does Wayne Gretzky say? Go to where the puck's going, not where it is. It A lot of that dynamic going on now. I think that's where the opportunities are, is finding where it's spreading to, what the next neighborhoods up are, so to speak, that are going to go through these gentrification phases like the East End already has. So that's the key now, is finding where you can still get at least somewhat positive cash flow. It's going to be to varying degrees. Like maybe the next neighborhood over, it might be floating around the 1% rule, flirting with getting underneath the 1% rule for, say, turnkey or close to turnkey. But you're going to have a lot of upside in that neighborhood. Whereas you could go maybe two neighborhoods over, you're still getting well into the 1% rule. It might take a little longer to get the appreciation and rent growth side of things, but you can tell that it's trending that way. So now it's just identifying opportunities that are kind of in the path of progress to take advantage of still getting cash flow, but also getting that high upside of appreciation and rent growth long term. Like I said, I think there's still a lot of opportunities for that, because Pittsburgh's still early on the whole development side of things, that you can identify those areas and specific pockets of sections of neighborhoods that are kind of on the upswing.
What's your take on it, Greg? Also, because it sounds like you're still doing flips too, right? So
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna kind of go a different direction of Jeremy and say like, I think Pittsburgh has a very untapped market for development. So like people pass on houses. Pittsburgh in general burns a lot of investors because they don't understand the market here. Like the hills, the concrete, the plaster, like the plumbing, like the electric, like when you're looking at a house that needs everything, honestly, it's almost a better play to knock it down and build a brand new house. So like if you can get along that game of like taking what Jeremy's saying, it was like getting in the neighborhoods, maybe buying a house like super dirt cheap, knocking it down, building a new house, and just burning that and then renting it. Then your capex is super low. I mean, for the next X amount of years, you don't have to worry about fixing anything or doing anything. And then you can maybe play that wealth, that appreciation, side of it too. Like if you do that into an area that's maybe not as up and coming, you go where the puck is going. I don't know. I see that as a play in Pittsburgh. I saw people doing a lot. I wouldn't say like COVID time. I haven't seen it as much. Newer houses going on the market. But I was seeing a lot. I would say like COVID time of like people knocking down houses and building brand new houses instead. As a contractor, to me, some of the houses just aren't salvageable. Like when you have to like go through and redo like all this plaster, and then you have an old cobblestone foundation wall and like all that kind of stuff. Like it's almost better just just build brand new. So like I think that's a very untapped play in Pittsburgh.
you know who's gonna like you saying that is the grumpy contractor. He's here, Jim. I think you may have met him on one of the Zoom calls on Thursday, but that's kind of what he's gonna do. So he's a contractor in California, but he is going to probably not pivot, but he's finishing up some stuff in California. But the entry point is so much higher that he's also going to start some projects in Pittsburgh. But that's kind of his strategy. He wants to find things, take it down to the studs, do a lot of work on his own. So that's also, he's kind of looking for a property initially to maybe house hack in a way to where he has a place to stay when he does come see his projects, and also leave like his work truck and tools, and but that's kind of his strategy. So he's probably gonna love that you just brought that up about of building new. So yeah, he says yes. Yeah. So also we also kind of were going to touch on, maybe Jeremy was going to maybe touch on some zip codes or things that he's seeing, like maybe as we, I think he, let me find his message again. About certain areas where it has A and C class properties somewhat in the zip code, and how do you kind of break it down and understand that specific zip code a lot better?
Yeah, you want me to touch on that now?
Yeah.
So whenever I tell people looking in the Pittsburgh market, they're asking what zip codes are good. It's very hard to do zip codes here just because a lot of these zip codes have sometimes even A class neighborhoods, A class areas, and C and D class neighborhoods within the same zip code. So, like Greg was touching on a little bit, we have hills here, we have highways, we have rivers, we have railroad tracks, a lot of times going right through the middle of neighborhoods that they might be close in proximity, like it might be a few streets over, but it's a completely different neighborhood just because you go up a hill or you go across the railroad track. So it's a very intricate from that standpoint that you can't really give zip codes to people. If you are relying on zip codes or zip code data, you can get burned because of that. So I always make sure people know that it's more of a neighborhood level when it comes to identifying quality of the areas more so than zip codes. So what was the one I say? Was it 15208?
Yeah, 15208.
So that one's a good example because it has Homewood, which is probably arguably the roughest neighborhood in Pittsburgh, and it has Point Breeze, which is arguably the nicest neighborhood in Pittsburgh, in the same zip code. Point Breeze has $1 million homes. Homewood has $10,000 homes. So if you're going on zip code data, you could run into trouble if you're relying on that. And the reason being is the railroad tracks, the busway, goes directly through the middle of Point Breeze North and Homewood. So that's when you're going from $800,000, you go right across the busway, you're getting into Homewood where houses really aren't even selling for more than 200 on the high end. So that dynamic, that if even if you're running comps on something, if you pull within a quarter mile, you can get both of those neighborhoods even though they're completely different. And then you go across the main road, Penn Ave, that separates Point Breeze North from Point Breeze proper. That's where you go from even more, like say 600,000-700,000 in Point Breeze North to $1.5 million houses right across Penn Ave. So that's a main road highway, you could say, not quite a highway, but definitely a main drag in the city that dictates the ARVs from that standpoint and the desirability of the neighborhood. So there's a million examples of that in and around the city specifically, and even into the suburbs, that are very drastic in polarizing neighborhoods or areas that are in the same zip code, basically. So it's just something to keep an eye on, watch out for if you aren't familiar with the Pittsburgh area and relying on zip code data.
That was also this other investor that reached out to me, Craig. He was asking your opinion, right, on this property he was thinking about listing, I think, and I think you looked it up and you're like, I hope he didn't think that it was in, was it Point Breeze or whatnot? Or
Yeah, the wholesaler advertised it as Point Breeze, but it was in Homewood. So it's like, but yeah, it was the very first street in Homewood, but it's still Homewood. So you have stuff like that happening that makes it even more confusing for people that don't know the areas, is wholesalers false advertising things, portraying it to be a different neighborhood than it actually is, just because it's in the same zip code, basically.
what's your thoughts on that, Greg, as far as street by street, zip codes, whatnot?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I have a place right now that I just closed on, a little duplex in Marshall Shadeland, and it's right across the bridge on Shadeland Ave. And like you go from Brighton Heights into Marshall Shadeland, and even like from my house, Marshall Shadeland, to like higher up on the road. I mean, you have like everywhere around the duplex I bought has, pretty decent, nice house, like nicely maintained houses. But you go up the street, turn left at the stop sign, and I mean, there's 6, 7, 8 houses that are just abandoned, boarded up. Like, I mean, so and it's on a hill. Like, I mean, you know, it's just like, it's literally a stone throw away, but it's a completely different landscape because all the houses around it are just falling apart. Like, and it's weird to say that because it's like, yeah, like it's the same area, but like at the same time, you've got to look to see like what's around those houses. Like, are they nice? Like, are they updated? Like, you can't. I just feel like in Pittsburgh, you have to go street by street, and you almost have to go and drive it and walk it, and just to get the feel of like, okay, like are the houses around it maintained? Because like, I mean, perfect example is like Homestead. Like you can get into a nicer area of a Homestead, and then you can drive 5 minutes up the road, like more towards Munhall, and like those houses aren't as desirable. Like you're staying closer to waterfront. There's some of those places that are a little bit nicer. I it's really street by street. It's like what Jeremy is saying. Sometimes like Mount Washington is also another example. I know a lot of investors that get burned by there because it says Mount Washington, but like if you're not in an area of Mount Washington that's good, like there's a drastic difference of price in Mount Washington, just depending on where you're at. So
Yeah, Mount Washington almost has 3 sub neighborhoods. You have Duquesne Heights, you have central Mount Washington, then you have Mount Washington closer to Allentown, which is essentially 3 different neighborhoods under Mount Washington. So it's add that to it as well. You even have sub neighborhoods within neighborhoods, let alone zip codes.
Yeah, that's all very good points. And before we get into kind of Jack's question about Squirrel Hill, I mean, as far as people that are working with you folks, out-of-state investors, is that something you guys do for them as far as, go see the properties or send them videos or walk through it for them?
Yeah, and I think that's the big value proposition, at least on the agent side for me and the guys on my team, is we've walked these streets for years, hundreds, thousands of properties, probably walking the streets in neighborhoods. So you're not going to be able to learn that online within a week. It's just the body of work to learn the ins and outs of the different areas. So that's kind of, I guess, on the agent side is we let clients know that. And yeah, just going to view properties, take videos, let them know how the neighborhood is. Like Greg was touching on, the old house stuff that you have to look out for, whether it was updated or not. There's so many variables involved that you just need the body of work to know what to look out for, what's good, what's bad when it comes to advising clients.
So let's see. Jack says, where does Squirrel Hill go from high-end area to more of a typical Pittsburgh neighborhood? He was over there the other day and made a wrong turn, and I was still in Squirrel Hill, and I didn't even think I still was. Do you know that area he's talking about, Greg?
I mean, I think I know what he's talking about, but honestly, Jeremy has way more knowledge of like where that stops. And I just kind of have a feel of it because I'm like South Hills, like I'm more of a suburbs guy. Like when it comes to like investing, like I just feel more comfortable. Like now I've been basically thrust into Pittsburgh because that's where most of my work takes me. Especially with investors, like when I work in and around Pittsburgh. So like I get a lot of like my feels of just driving the city, like because like sometimes when I'm going to a property, like I'll just drive around, like I'll just like say like, okay, like hey, this neighborhood's super cute, like this is nice, like so like but Jeremy probably has much more of a feel of like, oh, this part, like in this street, like he's way more knowledgeable when it comes to that. So that would be a Jeremy question.
Yeah, Squirrel Hill. So you have Squirrel Hill North and Squirrel Hill South. Squirrel Hill North is like definitely top 3, top 5 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. That's super desirable, multi-million-dollar homes. That's north of Forbes Avenue, which is kind of closer to Carnegie Mellon, which is the main reason there. So everything north of Forbes, solid. Once you get into Squirrel Hill South, kind of between Interstate 376 and Forbes Ave, those being the boundaries on the north and south, that's where it's probably more desirable from a Squirrel Hill South standpoint. And then once you go on the other side of the parkway, Interstate 376, further south, that's where Beechwood, I think is the street. You have Greenfield on the west side of it, and you still have Squirrel Hill South on the east side of it. So that's probably the neighborhood Jack might have turned on, that it feels more like Greenfield, which I like Greenfield. It's a great neighborhood. It's just not Squirrel Hill. So it's more of a standard Pittsburgh neighborhood, what you would assume comes along with the Pittsburgh neighborhoods rather than Squirrel Hill, which is a different beast. So that's same thing there. It's the same neighborhood, but one feels more like Greenfield, one feels more like Squirrel Hill North, all within the same neighborhood essentially. So it happens all the time. Like you could turn, you're still in the same neighborhood, but it's a completely different feel.
I haven't seen her here before, but I see Caitlin sold it. Thanks you for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm assuming she might be an agent or investor in Pittsburgh, but she says maybe Squirrel Hill going towards Point Breeze, Regent Square, but they're still nicer areas. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I'm assuming, so if you are, put in the chat that you're an agent or what brokerage you work for, Caitlin, or where do you invest in Pittsburgh? But yeah, so Greg, I think a lot of times people are also reaching out to you because we have a lot of people like maintenance or kind of repairs are needed on a lot of these older homes. And like you're saying, you think maybe going to the studs, building new homes is one option, but a lot of guys are still buying somewhat rent-ready properties, but they are noticing a lot of minor maintenance that needs to be done on a regular basis. So what kind of services do you provide? And I guess like how much notice do they have to give you if they need work done?
Well, so I come at it from a different perspective of Jeremy. Because like I personally think that like in the next 5 to 10 years, stuff is just going to become so unaffordable as it comes to like just paying for labor. Like labor is just going to get so expensive that it's not going to make sense to, if you're not doing like the work or you have it in-house, like you have to have a whole business almost set up. Because like I see it all the time. Somebody calls me one time to do something and I knock out a month or 2 months of rent. I mean, because the thing is like time is money. Like, so like I would say like where I kind of excel is like, yeah, I might not be the cheapest person in the world, but at the same time, like I'm not going to sell you a $6,000 service if you don't need a $6,000 service. So like I just walked a property for Lars and Jeremy, I think you sold that to him, right?
Homestead duplex.
Yeah, the duplex. And I walked in, I was like, dude, this is solid. Like he wanted to add like a bunch of like electrical. I'm like, I was like, I honestly, I wouldn't. I was like, you get plaster ceilings. I'm like, you start drilling into this. I'm like, you're going to have just as much like plaster work as you have electrical work. And I was like, you got a $6,000 quote for electrical. I'm like, that doesn't include them fixing the plaster. I'm like, you're going to get a better ROI. Put in mini splits. I was like, put in AC. Like, I was like, you'll increase your renter pool by like tremendously amount more than adding a light fixture. Like, so it's like things like that. Like I come from it as, okay, yeah, like you like, I don't do stuff necessarily that like my job isn't to make you money, but my job is to save you money where I can. Like, if that makes sense. Like, so like, I'll look at a house and I'll say like, hey, I really don't think you need this service from me. Like at the end of the day, like this isn't going to give you an ROI. Like this isn't going to like do anything for your renters. Like, so I come at it from the contracting perspective of if somebody wants to do something, I'm not the business that goes in and say, yeah, I'll do this. This is the price tag. I'll say, yeah, I can do this, but I don't think it's worth it. Or I'll say like, hey, I think this other thing would actually be much more advantageous. Or like just seeing stuff that people don't see. Like, okay, yeah, hey, you have water issues because all of this, it has a brown stain and I can see that your paint's bubbling. And like, so like some things that maybe people don't see, I see because I deal with bathrooms almost daily. So I'm seeing mold constantly. I deal with electrical, like I deal with plumbing, like I deal with all of it all the time. So like I'm seeing how much materials cost and how much labor costs. And so like I think I have a good grasp on like, hey, this is going to be either a nightmare to fix or like this is just going to be like a money pit because you're just going to constantly be fixing things. And that's why I see sometimes Pittsburgh investment wise as an issue is it's just like constantly thing after thing unless you just go in and like fix it from day one. I don't know if Jeremy has anything to add that because he has way more like rentals. So like obviously like he'll see way more of that. And like that's the other thing too is economy of scale. You have one, like I'm not doing anything like price wise for one, but you got 20. Okay, now we can maybe talk because like I don't have to market, I don't have to do any of the things. It's consistent work.
Yeah, you're correct. There's always something with the old houses for sure. So you got to expect that when you own rentals here, that maintenance is going to be higher on the early 1900s properties compared to other types of buildings. And yeah, I definitely agree. It's some things are worth paying money to fix or not fix. You got to cater to the neighborhood as well, or just there's certain things that you could put 100 grand into any property, even if it's in good shape. But is it going to give you a return, or is it going to be necessary to get renters in there, stay long, make sure you don't have a ton of issues with the property going forward, maintenance wise, as you're managing it. So it's just knowing what's worth spending money on, not spending money on, specifically with the old houses is important. And it's an acquired skill as you learn it along the way, but it's definitely something that you need to keep in mind to make these properties profitable rather than throwing money at something you don't need to be throwing it at unnecessarily.
All right, we got some questions, but I do want to ask both of you actually right now. So, what is the verdict on the smell? So, Lars has mentioned in one of our communities that there was this issue about a smell, I guess, in his unit after closing. And so, what is the progress on that? You guys have any update for us on that?
I mean, I walked it on Friday or Thursday, and I thought it smelled like a typical old Pittsburgh house. I didn't catch like any like dog smell or like urine smell. I mean, and I'm pretty good. I'm usually pretty good at like when I first walk into a property catching that smell. So I think those volcanic bags did its job. You know.
So let me just so Lars closed. Someone mentioned to him there was a unique or weird smell in the property. But what's cool was that someone else from the community, Lars, reached out to them and they were able to pick up the ash for him, drop it off because I believe Home Depot wouldn't deliver it or something like that. So, anyways, so someone in the community who lives in Pittsburgh was able to do the job for him, get it there. And then, like Greg said, you walked it for him. You're getting him a quote, but at the same time, you gave him feedback. So that's also kind of what I'm trying to build is this community with Jeremy, Greg, Alex, Liam, that like, Greg kind of touched on earlier. If you have only one property, it's not really beneficial for Greg to do the work in a sense. But if we have a community of people, 40, 50 properties combined, it works for all of us, right? So that's kind of my vision on this. But let's get into some of the questions. There was one. So Jack says, what do you guys think of old stone foundations and why? This might be, is Greg, you have more? I think this might be more your thoughts.
I mean, they're fine. I mean, you're going to see a lot more water entry into those old stone foundations. So expect to have water in your basement. I don't think I've ever seen a Pittsburgh basement with a stone foundation that didn't have water in it. So just expect that. It's going to smell damp. It's going to be dirty. There's really no other, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something that if you're trying to go in and fully bone dry waterproof a sandstone foundation, that's probably a waste of money. You're going to spend a lot of money to do this unnecessarily when you could just make sure the gutters are routing properly, put a dehumidifier down there, good to go type of deal.
The other thing too, Jeremy, I don't know if you know this, but like you paint that, it's actually terrible for the actual foundation because it breaks down the sand in it. So like people try to paint those all the time. All you're doing is you're deteriorating like the mortar that's holding those
in between. Yeah.
So like don't paint it. It doesn't, you don't need to make it look pretty. No one's going to use it other than like storing something maybe, but like, I don't know. Everybody in Pittsburgh like wants to make these stone foundations like nice base. It's like, it's not going to be that. It's never going to be that. Like just keep it like that. Make sure it's the air humidity doesn't get too high down there. Like Jeremy's saying, run a dehumidifier. But like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's a stone foundation.
So Flavio, who is in Grandview, Washington, and who likes to make fun of Pittsburgh that you need a bulletproof vest to invest there. But he says, Greg, do you get all the permit? Oh, shit, it just moved. Greg, do you get all the permits or homeowner has to deal with that?
No, it's on the, I mean, you can say, hey, I'm not in charge of permits, but like in the city of Pittsburgh, like you have to be a licensed contractor to pull the permits. So like in others, like depending on where you're at, so like, you know, townships have different requirements. So like I was in a township. I thought I was in Allison Park. I was actually in McCandless. I didn't realize it because like the address showed it was a Allison Park address, but it was actually the township of McCandless. So I went and started pulling like permits in Allison Park, and then I found out it wasn't Allison Park; it was McCandless. So like it's like in the city of Pittsburgh, it's one stop. Like that's where you pull your permits. You have to be a licensed contractor. You have to have like the actual like app to like do all the things like building permits and whatnot. And yeah, that should be on your contractor. Because for them to do the work, they have to have the permits. Now if you're doing your own work as an owner operator, you don't have to pull permits unless you're doing structural. And that's pretty much across the board. So like in Allegheny County, permits for plumbing, if I'm doing work, I have to have a master builder pull that, master plumber pull those permits. Like I can't do anything plumbing wise in Allegheny County. And then when it comes to electrical, like a lot of people think you have to be a master electrician to pull some of the permits. In the city of Pittsburgh, I haven't done too much work in the city of Pittsburgh, like electrical wise. But like in other counties, I mean, other like, you know, municipalities and stuff, you don't. They just have to come out and inspect it. So you just pull the permit and come out and inspect it. Like I said, it's case by case. City of Pittsburgh is completely different. They're probably the most strict on permits. But like if you're in a surrounding area, it's just based off your township.
All right. I just want to give Joel Farrow a shout out. Lending for Entrepreneurs is his YouTube channel. Go check him out and subscribe. He'll be on live with me tomorrow morning at noon Eastern with Donato Callahan, also the founder of Bright Investor. So Joel and Donato will be on tomorrow. But let's see. There was another question for you. Hey, Janitor on Fire is here. I haven't seen him in a while, but he says, is Pittsburgh ADU friendly?
It depends. You don't see it too often unless it was like an older home that was built with an ADU, like two houses on one lot type of deal. We don't see too much new development ADU, maybe if you're in like one of the high end areas, but outside of that, it's not really commonplace here yet, just because it's a cheaper market, I think, and the fact that it's just developing can be tricky sometimes. So don't see it too often. I think you might start seeing it soon, but like Greg said, if you're in the city, they're probably going to make it very difficult to do that. I don't think that sometimes they're anti-development with those types of things. So I'm sure they would make you jump through quite a few hoops to be able to do that, but it might be on the upswing here soon, I would think, in some of the more expensive areas, if the city doesn't make it completely hard to actually execute on it.
All right. So before we get into Jim's question about wholesale volume, Jim is kind of old too, so maybe he didn't hear or he forgot. But Greg, maybe you can give a quick breakdown or recap again of your history, your story. But if not, Jim, Greg does have a video on my channel probably about a year ago. But Greg, maybe
So I used to be a chemist in up till 2021. Quit that. I had flipped my house. So I wanted to get into real estate. So I was like, hey, I'll just be a handyman. Went from being like handyman to contractor because it was like, hey, people don't trust the word handyman. So like just got my contractor's license. And so now like I do pretty much all my own work on my flips. And then I do handyman, and then I also do contracting. So I try to have like 1 to 2 medium-sized jobs, and then I sprinkle in handyman because handyman is just like, you know, you need an hour here, you need 2 hours there. Unless you're giving me a punch list, it's like 8 hours long. Then it's like a full scheduled day. But yeah, that's just like my backstory. Just started acquiring a bunch of tools when I flipped my house, and then just was like, I want to run my own business. And so I picked contracting, and I wanted to get in real estate. So it was like, best of every world.
So Jim, there's his Instagram page if you want to reach out to Greg. But Greg sometimes joins us on the Thursday calls, also Jack's Western PA call. And we want to clarify, and we did on the video, but Greg, it was a legal chemist, not a behind the scenes chemist, but he was a legal chemist. Hey, Andy's here. Good morning, Andy. Andy is in Ohio, and he is possibly considering also pivoting to Pittsburgh. So, because he sees a lot of good stuff that we're doing out there. So he's interested in the market also. But Jim did ask, is wholesale volume up or down now? And I know, Greg, that's what you kind of also were dabbling in for a while too, right? So
yeah, I did it for a while. I did it for almost like 9 months, honestly. I got a couple like I got like one truly closed, like start to finish transaction. Like I got a couple that like I just kind of gave to somebody because they weren't really worth anything. And then I had a lot that I got locked up and I just couldn't move because it just cost too much to renovate in a bad area. I think you see a lot of that in Pittsburgh is like, it's like, what do I do with this house? Like it's in a crappy area. They want too much money. It's going to cost too much to fix. But like, honestly too, like, it's just, I feel like that's just Pittsburgh in general. Like you get a lot of bad deals. So you have to really like go through them. I'm sure Jeremy gets way more wholesale sent to him, so he could probably speak on that. I was doing the actual like texting 1,000 people a day and like all that. Pittsburgh people are just truly really hard to get a property from them. I mean, they're hard stone. I mean, they could be in a terrible spot and they'll be like, "Screw you! I'm not selling you my house for cheap."
Yinzers.
Right?
That's the Yinzer way.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, there will be people that'll burn and die before they sell you a property and make profit.
Okay, so Jeremy, what are you seeing on the wholesale side? Are you getting a lot of deals coming across your table, or has it slowed down? What's your thoughts on that?
There's still a lot of pretty steady amount of deals coming our way. A lot of them you have to sift through. There's most of them probably aren't good deals, but if there are some pretty legit wholesale companies here that do provide a lot of good deals that clients buy. And I don't think it's really slowed down from even pre-COVID. So that's stayed pretty steady. It's just the wholesale. I'd say the biggest difference now is the wholesale deals a lot of times are just as competitive as the on-market deals. So I kind of view it's just an extension of the MLS essentially, honestly, except you're just competing with other investors, but other investors' criteria on returns and whatnot has kind of shrunk as well. So it's competitive no matter where you're at, essentially on market or off market.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. What Jamie is speaking of, you get a deal sent to you, and it's like, oh yeah, this works, and then
Gets bid
like
up.
it gets bid up, and you're like, okay,
Just like you're on the market. Yeah.
yeah.
But the wholesale deals, you don't have contingencies a lot of times. There's no seller's disclosure. So honestly, some of those are arguably riskier than the on-market
Worse.
deals once you factor in the price getting bid up. So
And most of the time they're in a bad situation. The house has kind of been let go. I mean, very rarely are you getting sent a house that's like turnkey. I mean, there's some like Jeremy was saying, there's like buy box, I get a bunch sent from buy box, and I mean, he's always sending out decent
yeah,
deals.
they're solid.
But like at the end of the day, like his stuff is solid, so it's always getting bid up to like where it doesn't make sense again. And it's like so I mean, yeah, you do have the companies out there, but like honestly, I mean, if you can source, like if you're in the area, drive for dollars. I mean, that's going to be your best opportunity to maybe snag. If you're trying to buy like one or two properties, like driving for dollars is going to be your best scenario. Like if you're trying to find your own properties, and because you can get it first, you can negotiate your price, whatever. But like, yeah, if you're sitting around like waiting for wholesale deals, honestly, especially if you're starting out, I would tell you go on the MLS because you're way more protected than if you're buying a wholesale deal that nothing, like Jeremy's saying, nothing's disclosed. Like you don't know anything. Like you don't have inspection periods. You don't, like, all the things that you have on the MLS are gone when you're buying from like a wholesale company. So,
and that's a common misconception too. It's like people think if it's on the market, it's not a good deal, but they don't think about that side of it. And they just assume if it's off market, it's a good deal. So you can't just assume things like that. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And it's, at the end of the day, it's one big funnel. You're looking at the deals as a risk adjusted potential return. The off market wholesale deals have higher risk because you don't have that stuff disclosed. So you can't just discount that. You have to factor it into the decision making on any individual property you're looking at.
Very good point. Troy Roberts, hey, what's up, man? He says, Greg, how was the transition to handyman? I thought about doing that myself.
I would tell you, if you have a good W-2 job, don't just invest. I don't know. It's like one or the other. It's really tough. Like, I would say if you want to make $120,000 a year and like have an all like full-time job, be a handyman. Yeah, I mean, because that's what essentially I charge per hour, is to make 120 grand a year. I mean, it's not great money. Like you can make that as, pretty much any other job. Like you can make that in a year. I mean, so I don't know. I think it's sometimes worth it, but it's also other times not worth it, because I'm working literally from like 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. sometimes. And it's like, I don't know, you can go do other jobs and make just as much money. Or if you have like a W-2 job and you can leverage your like getting loans and stuff, like a lot of people forget that, like when you're self-employed, like it's harder to get loans, like all the things, especially if you're trying to invest. It can almost set you back, not having that stability, not knowing what you can spend a month, not knowing like how to calculate that stuff. And I'll tell you, like, what I charge, I don't make that in a year. I just charge that to make that in a year. So it's going to take probably, I would say, 3 to 4 years of like you doing the job to even get established, to be like, okay, yeah, this is decent money. Like I'm just now getting to the point where it's like, okay, like people are referring me, I'm getting consistent business. Like I'm getting to the point where like it's starting to be good money. It's just, you got to get to that point. Like handyman isn't something you can just jump into and then all of a sudden take off. You can, I mean, there's companies out there, but you've got to market, you've got to sell. It's just like any other business. You got to have stuff in place. Organization was probably the hardest thing for the handyman business. Because like you'll show up to do a job and it's like, shit, I need one drywall screw. And like you don't have a single drywall screw. Or you're like, you show up, you're like, oh, like I need this tool, and you don't have that tool. That's what makes it really hard as a handyman, because you do everything. So like a plumber has plumbing stuff. An electrician has electrician stuff. Like I'm showing up with plumbing stuff, electrician stuff, carpenter stuff. Like if there's block, I have stuff to drill in the block. Like, I mean, I have all the things. So like, that's what makes it really tough, is like showing up on a job and being organized enough to where you have everything, you know where everything is, and you're time efficient for your customers. Because there's nothing worse than showing up and wasting a bunch of time for your customers. I would say that's like number one. You got to dial in like how to like be efficient to charge per hour. Because if you're inefficient, even there's still times today, like if I'm like super inefficient on something, I'll just credit somebody back. It's like, hey, this took me 2 hours. It should have taken me 1 hour. Like, I'm just going to credit you back an hour. Just being, I don't know, that's my small take on it.
No, good advice. So Andy, like I said, who's in Ohio, he's having a heck of a time trying to get some handymen to come out. I think he's reached out to like 4 or 5. He was on a call with us the other day. He said, yeah, nobody shows up. So is that a way to succeed, Greg? Do you see like almost like just showing up as a way to be a good handyman out in Pittsburgh? Is it that difficult to find people, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit, it's both. People say I can't find a handyman to show up, and I'll say I can almost guarantee you that they don't want to pay. Like I said, I don't think I'm the most expensive at all. I also don't think I'm the cheapest. I tell people this all the time. I'm cheaper than a plumber, but I'm not cheaper than your crackhead. Like, you know, I mean, and so like if you want a crackhead to show up and do some work for you, cool. Like you can get away paying them $15 an hour. You know, maybe you get some sloppy painting. Like if you don't care, you don't care. But like, you know, you call a plumber, they're 150 an hour, you know, you don't, no one complains about that. So like, it's like, I'm in that in between. Like I'll show up, I'll do a good job. You know, if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. And if I'm not, I'll text you and say, hey, something popped up, couldn't make it today. That's the hardest thing with handyman too, is like, I could be at a job where I think it's going to be an hour and then they add stuff, something goes wrong, I hit traffic. Now like one job's an hour behind, then I go to my second job, now I'm 2 hours behind. It's like, so like I could have you on the end of my day and I don't make it there because it's like I have other things going on. So it's just communication at the end of the day. It's like, hey, can't make it there today. I'll be there tomorrow.
So, Jeremy, I'm not sure if Jack mentioned to you when you guys had coffee the other day, but Jack is kind of putting together possibly a meetup in Pittsburgh. I think it's early September. I want to say the 3rd to the 5th or 5th to the 7th, somewhere in that area. But he's wondering if you and Greg are going to be attending the meetup, possibly.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Cool. I'm not sure if I'll be there, but cool.
You have to. You're obligated.
You gotta fly out.
Dude, well, I'm gonna be in Japan next month. I got
Japan. I want to go to Japan.
Yeah, well, it's hot in July, so I bought those neck fans on Amazon yesterday. Somebody told me to get those neck fans because July is like one of the worst months to go. But we're going for some.
It doesn't get hot in Hawaii, does it? Is it like the same temperature the whole year? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, it gets winter is a little bit, it is cooler and it rains more, but it's pretty consistent. Yeah, so. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Joe V agrees with you. Says taking care of customers. So Joe V is a handyman in Wisconsin. He does property management also. He says, yeah, taking care of customers is important. Troy says, I do most of my work in my local market, and I hate it when I don't have the tool with me or hardware that's needed. So I understand frustration when you need something and don't have it. Harrison is here. So Harrison is also working with Jeremy. Did he? I don't know if I should say, but he put in an offer, right? Or I don't know. Did he put in an offer on something? No, or he was looking at something? Okay.
Not with me.
Sorry, was it? No, well, I know he was looking at something. I wasn't sure.
He might have.
Well, maybe it was with Liam. I don't know. But it worked with both of you. But Harris, September 5th to the 7th is when the meetup, Harrison said. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, so Jim messaged me too. So Greg, Jim was probably going to reach out to you. He's asking for your contact info, so I'll send it to him later.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, let's see what else. Did you guys want anything else in Pittsburgh you guys want to talk about or dig into real quick, or anything in what's real estate, what you guys got on your top of your mind?
I mean, Jeremy, what's your favorite location? Like where, like if you could buy a rental anywhere, like in the city, like where would that be?
In terms of just like,
let's just say like I don't know,
long-term buy and hold to buy a rental right now.
Yeah, based off of like renter class, appreciation, cash flow, like health of the house, like all the things.
Me personally, now I would buy 1970s side-by-side multifamily in A-class, but in terms of somebody starting out, I really like the river towns along 28. So like right across from Lawrenceville, say Troy Hill, Millvale, Sharpsburg, Etna. I really like those neighborhoods because they're right there. They're still cheap. Etna, Millvale, Sharpsburg, good school districts, but you're still really close to downtown. So I think that you're going to see a lot of uptick there over the next decade in terms of spillover from the East End, particularly. So I really like those neighborhoods. And then even South Side right now, I think it's kind of like a buy low opportunity, in my opinion, with the bad rap it's kind of picked up the last like 5 years or so. I think that like if I was starting now, I definitely would have my eyes on South Side because I've been seeing prices coming down. But realistically, I don't think South Side's going anywhere long term. I just don't see it. The location and the setup with the business district. South Side works on the up and up. I think that's like if I was starting now, I would definitely be keeping an eye on South Side to build the portfolio in terms of future potential. It's almost like I could see it's on a downswing now, but almost like regentrifying, I guess you could say, which is interesting. But I think that's something that will happen being right across the river from Oakland, the universities and hospitals and all that. So,
Any areas you would add to that, Greg? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I just bought one in Marshall Shadeland, so I'm gonna say Marshall Shadeland. I'm actually like, there's a couple of houses like just on that block. My strategy is just gonna be try to like localize as much as possible. I think people get spread out. That's like the other thing too. Like when we're talking about like cost effectiveness. Like if you have like two properties that are like 30 minutes apart, like you can't have the same handyman, or like you can't have the same people, but like Pittsburgh, half hour is completely different. I mean, half hour in Pittsburgh is like you're going from one side of the city to the other side of the city. So like I want to stay like probably like the 79 corridor is what I kind of want to stick to, like when it comes to investing. I like anything south of the city. So like I really like Brookline, like, you know, that area. The houses, like, I don't know, kind of my buy box. Like, you typically like brick. I like small, like say 1,200 under brick homes. Maintenance on them is super low, especially if they're well built. But like I-beams, like I love I-beams when I walk into a house and I see an I-beam with like 2x10 joists. Like there's just like certain styles of construction that I've seen over the years that are just way lower maintenance wise. That's typically like what I look for and what I'm sticking to. Investing wise is like when I walk in and I can see like old lumber that's like super well built, like the house has like the siding's okay, you know, all the electric's been updated. Like those are the kind of things, like the plumbing's not cast, like those are the kind of things that I'm kind of looking for when I go into a house to buy. I mean, and I would say like just that area, the 79 corridor, like is really what I want to stick to, because it's just easier for me to hop on. Going to the east side is miserable for me. Like it's terrible to get there. Like it takes an hour. Like anything like where I hit the tunnels, like the Squirrel Hill tunnels, like if I have to go past that, like I just want to kill myself, because it's like an hour hour and a half drive like to get there. So
it's at all hours of the day too. You're sitting on Parkway East.
there's not a single time where it's not backed up. Well, we got Stephen Lee here. He's from Canada. He's been also working with Liam and Jeremy, looking for his first property. He's thinking of investing in the States because Canada is just ridiculous for investors or real estate. Greg also met Stephen on one of the calls too. But Troy says, yeah, he wants to get into flipping in his local market of North Seattle to generate income to purchase more buy and hold. But he invests in Kansas City, so more investing opportunities in Kansas City.
I own a property like 3 hours south of Seattle. It's Wenatchee, Washington. So it's like you got an appreciation play if you go a little bit outside of Seattle, because everyone's moving outside of Seattle since COVID. It's been like Wenatchee, like most of the properties out there were like 300,000-400,000. Now they're building $1 million houses. Like Ryan Homes here building like 500,000. They're building $1 million+ homes out there. So like if you're looking like Seattle, I would tell you to tick outside of Seattle like an hour. And a lot of people are moving out of Seattle because it's hard to build in Seattle and prices are just getting like super high. So a lot of the areas around Seattle are actually seeing like a huge uptick in like appreciation. So
yeah, Flavio says it's nice. So he's, like I said, he's in Grandview, Washington.
Yeah.
But nice. Rad is stopping by. Rad is in school with us also. He is in Orlando and he bought his first property in Pittsburgh recently. Let's see. Oh, Troy is asking, Greg, are you on the school platform? And I would say no, he is not, Troy. So maybe I'll convince him after this to join. Troy also agrees. Wenatchee is it awesome, but it's East Seattle. When it's awesome, but it's East Seattle. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to dig in about the Pittsburgh, or we can kind of maybe touch on Greg's shirt he got on, or if he wants to dig into that a little bit. But
the free promo for Ron Pineda.
Yeah, so before we hopped on live, we're getting the camera set up to show Greg's shirt properly, and he mentioned that as part of Ryan Pineda's group and whatnot. And I said, hey, isn't he getting sued and all these type of things? I don't want, well, allegedly, we'll just say allegedly. Yeah. So we don't know the whole story. But so does that mean you were part of that community, or you still are part of that community, Greg? Or
Yeah, no, I was part of that community. It was 10 grand well spent. I'll say that. Like, I don't think it was great in the fact that like I learned everything through that, but it got me what people take 3, 4, 5 years to learn. I learned in 3 months. It was really high level too. Like Brian Davila was like my coach, was like our like direct coach. You know, at the time, I think he was flipping like 40 properties a year. Like, you know, multimillionaire. Like, I mean, the thing is when you're learning from people that are doing it like big time too, like he didn't waste time. Like you'd evaluate a deal and he'd be like, you don't even know your numbers. Like, how are you evaluating this deal? But I mean, it kind of got, I think it kind of got like too big for its own good. Like it got big fast. And there's just like a lot of things that, you know, staying there long term, it just felt like pretty salesy, like pretty transaction. But I mean, again, I can't badmouth it too much because it got me where I got today. I mean, I got my first flip because of it. Like everything I learned, I implemented to a T. Got my first flip, and you know, kind of got started. You know, from just doing that. I mean, so yeah. I mean, the coaching programs in general do work if you do the work. But I mean, past that, if you already have the knowledge and you've already bought the deals and you're doing the thing, honestly, stuff like this, where you're like talking to other investors, you're talking to Jeremy, who, you know, owns a ton of properties, who does it every day. This is his job. You know, those are the people I would say you more so want to learn from, in the market you want to do, because like, yeah, Wealthy was cool, but they flipped houses in Vegas. They did stuff in Vegas. You don't have to touch anything. You're just painting, flooring, like the roofs are good. The construction's 2008. You know, it's like a completely different game. Completely different game. Like I can literally pull Google Maps. You can find 5 comps of every house, like in just general West Coast like real estate. It's so much easier to pull comps. So much easier. And it's like, you know, you shoot a comp here, it might be the same house. It might be completely different. Like the construction's completely different. Like, I mean, it's the same square footage, but the style's different. It's Cape Cod versus ranch. It's vinyl siding versus aluminum siding versus brick. Like, I mean, there's just so much variance here. So I would say like, yeah, I mean, again, Wealthy was cool. I liked it a lot. And for the first 3 months that I was like in it, and then it kind of got too big. And, you know, we were kind of touching the same thing over and over and over and over, but I mean, just showing up on the calls almost every day. We had a Zoom call, you know, and it was just like evaluating deals, especially at the beginning. That's the most important, is like, you need to evaluate 5 deals a day. If you're new, 5 deals a day, every day. It doesn't matter if it's a deal or not. You're evaluating it to see if it's a deal. And then, you know, if you're doing that consistently, you'll find a deal. And, you know, you make offers. Okay, it doesn't work. You see something on the MLS. It's been on the MLS for 30 days. Guess what? Make an offer. Who cares? Like, throw an offer in at the price that makes sense. They might tell you to F off. Who cares? Like at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. You got to submit enough offers to get told no to get that yes.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, like you said, everyone is different. Some people do get value. Like I just went to the event in Hawaii where Michael Zuber spoke at, but also Daniel Kong spoke at, and he is big in the Ryan Pineda. And from what I heard, he pays $100K a year to be in that program, and he re-upped. So he must be getting value out of it if he re-upped for another year. So
yeah, I think it's when you're around people doing big stuff, that's more of the value in it. It's like being around people doing the $100 million deals. So like he's probably there's like a couple different tiers of the Ryan Pineda thing. He's definitely in the superstar program. I don't know. Ryan's probably come out with some other gold star program since I've been in it. So I don't know. He's a salesman for sure, because he's sold like all the time. But like, yeah, I mean, I know there's a guy, Ryan Rice, I used to work for. He does a lot of he does like TV commercials for like the Ohio. He's in Ohio and Virginia, but like I mean that's what he says. Like he loves the program just because he's around like other people doing big stuff. So I mean it's just like back to our original conversation, like on our first podcast ever. Like when I got into skiing, I got good at skiing because I was around other people that were good at skiing. If I was around some mid skiers, I'd probably be a mid skier. But like I was around people throwing backflips, you know, hitting rails, going fast down the mountain. And it's like that was the only way I learned how to do it. So if you're getting into real estate, get around people that are doing it, that know what they're talking about. Somebody like Jeremy, I mean, he's a killer in the area. So
So just to clear the air, Jeremy Harrison says he's waiting on approval from the bank, but he talked to you about the terms. So yeah, he has not put an offer in behind your back. Greg, I will also get your information to Troy. Looks like he wants to connect with you, but if you are here still yet, Troy, there's Greg's Instagram page. You can also probably reach out to him there, but I'll get you Troy after this. I'll send you Greg's info and vice versa. Janet on Fire says he is considering joining Lifestyles Unlimited, $7,000 for single family membership. It includes mentorship and vetted contractors. Plus, you get to hang out with other like-minded people. That is, what's his name? Dale Twombly or no, I forget, something like that. But I've seen his. I know some people that have joined his program. And
here's a question: you need to ask. You need to vet the mentorship. Like when they say mentorship, that's just like the other word I hate is value. We provide so much value. Like you hear guys online say value all the time, like some like big buzzword, like, oh, like I'm just looking for value. Like you need to ask them, like, what is you say mentorship, like what does that include? Or is that one-on-one calls? Or is that you just being on like a live stream once a month? Is that once a week? Like, what is that mentorship? Because I mean, that's important. Like anybody can say, oh, it's a mentorship, because just being in the group is a mentorship.
That's right. I always say Dale Walmsley. I always say it wrong, but I know who that is. He has a YouTube channel also. Let's see. Hey, Proof Oak is here. He always wants crypto. So sorry, man. I don't know. Greg, do you do crypto? Do you invest? No, okay, but sorry, I'm working on it, man. I'm trying to get someone. He always wants someone to talk crypto on the channel, but yeah, I think this was a good episode. Unless there's anything else you guys want to dig into, talk about. Yeah, I don't know. Jeremy, what are you seeing right now? Do you think people are sitting on the sidelines? The economy's scaring them. A lot of investors are kind of sitting on their hands. What's your thoughts on that?
Not really. I mean, we still have a lot of demand here, specifically for multifamily, fixer-upper, burrs, flips. I haven't seen a decrease in investor demand. I've seen maybe a decrease in owner-occupant single-family demand, increased supply, but outside of that, it's kind of just been steady for the most part here on the investor side. You're seeing more people want to list properties. Like I've definitely had some past clients reach out considering listing. I think just because you're seeing a lot of people thought properties maybe were going to cash flow and they didn't. So I think that's causing an uptick in supply, specifically with the multifamily space. Because I've seen them sell the past 5 years. I was seeing property sell. I'm like, who's buying this? They're not going to make money. The taxes are going to get reassessed. Rents aren't going to be what they think they are. And what do you know? Those properties show up 2 to 3 years later, listed on the market, asking for sky high prices that they're probably not going to get. So a lot of them are probably going to lose money on properties they thought were going to make them money. So I've been seeing a lot of that, which has increased the supply, but the demand side has stayed pretty steady. So it'll be interesting to see how that supply side kind of, if it continues to go that route or not, and how the demand side plays out. But I think it's just Pittsburgh being a cheaper, more affordable market. It's causing the demand to still stay pretty good compared to maybe some other markets.
I also want to mention Liam was here in the chats, and he did say Greg was dropping some knowledge earlier. So I also want to say, Liam, thanks for giving me your AC's contact, AC repairman's contact, but he didn't return my call yet. I don't know what to do because his voice message went. It's like some Spanish. He's talking in Spanish. I didn't know if like you're supposed to press 1 to leave a message or press 2 to. So I don't know. But anyways, I went to the website and filled out the information, but I'm still waiting to hear back from them. Let's see. Yeah. So Flavio says back to Greg's point about the mentorship. He said last time I asked that on a Spanish mentorship, they kicked him out. And Jim does make a good point. He says, make sure you have the time to maximize any mentorship you do. Yep. All right, Greg, you want to wrap things up with anything? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, just do the thing. Whether that's starting a handyman business, getting into real estate, buying, can't buy a house without making offers. Can't start a business without taking that first step. So, I mean, whatever it is that you want to do, just do it.
Yeah, so anyone out there, Troy, Jim, I will send you guys Greg's info, and I'll send Greg your guys' info also. And Jeremy, Greg, thanks for doing this, and we'll get you